Okay, good morning, everybody. We have the luxury of having a guest speaker with us today. Her name is Tamer Vakaras, and she's a transcribe graduate. And so she's just going to, tell us a little bit about herself and tell us, about her journey to transcribe and through transcribe and after. So she's done up a PowerPoint presentation for us that she's going to present. And after she's presented her presentation, there should be time for some questions after that. You can just type your questions in the chat box after her presentation. So I'm going to hand the floor over to her. And thank you for joining us, Tamer.
Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So, okay, good. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I want to thank you, first off, for having me today. It's really exciting to be here. As you guys are, I was a student at Transcribe, and so the Wednesday webinars were something that, excuse me, that I really loved. So it's exciting to be here and giving one today. So I'm actually coming to you from the west coast of Canada, and I'm looking outside, and it's actually beautiful and sunny, which is a change for us because it's been raining for about 3 weeks, so this is nice. So thank you, Leslie. I am a transcribe graduate. I graduated with honors in September of 2019. And since then, actually, a couple of days right after I finished my practicum, I started working for NTS Australia. And I have been working with them now for about 1.5 years. So, Leslie, we can go on to the next slide there if you're ready. I'm just going to get right into it, you guys. There we go. So the outline for today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, how I discovered transcribe, my experience with the practicum, finding a job, what it's actually like to work for an Australian company, school versus work, so there's a few little differences there we can touch on, of course, and some common Aussie words that I come across on a daily basis, and a few tips for success. So my goal today is to share a little bit of inspiration with you guys, and I hope you can come away with something from today. So next slide. So my story. So my story is a little bit unique in that I have actually no medical background. I have a background in sales, so I've spent many, many years working in sales, and I grew up completely immersed in the ski industry. My father owned several ski businesses. When I was growing up, he had actually 3 different ski shops over the years. He ran a ski school, he had a heli skiing operation, so many, many things. And my sister and I grew up in that world, and we were both competitive ski racers, and we pretty much spent all of our time at the ski hill. So we grew up in one of his ski shops, basically working in there, right around the age of 14, I think is when I started. And then by the age of 20, I was part owner in the store. I was co-manager with my sister, and, we were buyers. We would go to trade shows and do all the buying and that kind of stuff. And quite honestly, you guys, I thought that this was my destiny. Like I would take over the business one day. I'd be running the shop with my sister. We would have our babies and, live there and do that. But things changed. And by the time my dad was ready to retire and sell his business, I was ready to go all in, but my sister was not. So she actually backed out. And when I had a look at it, I realized, you know what, I can't do this on my own. I can't raise a family and do this by myself. So we walked away. He ended up selling his shop at the time to one of his longtime employees, and that worked out really well. And so we walked away from it. And it was around about that time that I did meet my husband, and he was also in sales, but he was in real estate sales and property management. So I kind of joined forces with him, and I got into real estate sales. And we worked together doing that for several years, and you know, developing subdivisions as well, and we were raising a small family by that time, and building a house actually on top of that. So we were busy. We were working every day, and as some of you might know, being a realtor is pretty stressful. You work every day, and you're available all the time. So it was getting to be a bit much, and my hubby's health was actually affected, and you know, we realized it was time for a change. So we actually had an opportunity to sell our business because he owned a little real estate brokerage actually at the time, and we sold it and we made a change. I looked at where my life was going, and I realized, you know what's important to me, and the most important thing to me was being a mom and staying healthy and being at home with my kids. I absolutely loved it. So we sold their business, like I said, and we moved cities. Next slide, Leslie. And this is around about the time that, you know, I had to make a change. I had to look at different things. I knew I wanted to go back to school. I didn't know in what way, shape, or form that would be. But so I took some time off. I took a couple of years off and just, you know, spent time with the kids. And meanwhile, my mom was also retiring at that time from her long-time career, and she worked at a college in administration. And at that college, they were offering an MT program, and she was looking for something to do in her retirement, you know, something that she could do part-time from home. So she actually took the medical transcription course. This was at Selkirk College. She took it in her final year of work while she was still working, which is pretty amazing. And she retired, and she ended up working as an MT part-time from home, just a couple of days a week in retirement. And so I saw her journey with that, and I kind of was like, you know what, maybe that's something for me. So I looked into schools, and of course was looking into taking it at Selkirk College. But when I discovered transcribe online, I was like, hey, wait a minute, you know, they're offering a practicum, which Selkirk at that time wasn't. In fact, I don't even think Selkirk is even offering the program anymore, but I'm not 100% sure on that one there. I'd have to check. But anyways, they were not offering a practicum portion to the program. So that's what really stood out for me when I looked into transcribe. And I decided to go for it. So challenges. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things about what I found challenging while at transcribe, and then of course some of the really positive things as well. So for me, the timeline was really tricky. As you guys know, it's sort of packaged to you in a 1-year timeline. And when I had a good look at it and realized this is every day, you know, this is 7 days a week for a full year, it's just something I couldn't do. My kids at that time were really, really busy, and you know, I had a little hockey player and a competitive skier, and we were busy. We were traveling all the time on the weekends. Like, I was not around on the weekends. We were, you know, hockey in the evenings, ski trips, lots of things like that. And in fact, right after I signed up for the course, this was right before Christmas, I realized, wow, we have vacations planned for Christmas and spring break this year. Like, there was a lot of things that were getting in the way. And so when I looked at the timeline, I realized, okay, I have actually 2 years to complete this. We have 2 years to do this. There's no way I can get this done in a year. So I said to myself, okay, I'll take the 2 years. And it took a lot of pressure off me, and it worked great for me. I mean, yes, it costs a little bit more. You have to buy your extensions, but for me, it was 100% worth it. So that's what I did there. And the other thing I found a little challenging while in school were labs. So lab values, lab names, what diseases or ailments they went with, when you tested for this or that. I found in the course at that time that there really wasn't a lot of information on labs. I'm not sure what it looks like now, but at that time it was a bit challenging. And so I've just mentioned a little website here, Lab Tests Online. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, but that helped me a lot. So Lab Tests Online, I think it's .org. I've got a link there. Maybe I'll put it in the chat box for you guys. But that helped me a lot, and I'm sure if you've seen that you know what I mean. There we go. And so positives. There's so many positives at school. Number one, for sure, are the incredible instructors. I mean, guys, Leslie, are amazing. I encourage you guys, if you're new to the course, I encourage you to reach out to your instructors. Ask for help. They're awesome. They're there to help you. They're always helpful and always available via live chat or email. And I found they really wanted you to succeed. I mean, that's what they're there for. So they're great. The webinars, like I said before, I really looked forward to the webinars. It was Wednesday and Friday back in my day. I don't know what it looks like now, but those were always wonderful, and I encourage you to attend all of them, everyone. QA feedback, and that's another thing that's obviously very helpful. What I did is I went through all of my feedback. I listened to all of the reports again when they came back with the answer key, and that was huge for me, and so that was a real positive. Okay, moving on to the next slide. I see my slides kind of came up a little bit jumbled here. That's okay. So the practicum experience. So when it came time for the practicum, I knew that I wanted to try and do it with an Australian company. And why, you might ask, why an Australian company? Well, it all started with a blog. So when I was researching Transcribe, I was kind of perusing through their website and going through some of the blogs that they have on their site and reading them. And I came across one. It's dated August 29th, 2017. And it's titled, Brett from IMEX Australia stopped by to answer what is medical transcription. So you guys should listen to this. It's still out there. It's from 2017. And I listened to that, and I remember thinking, it's just like a Q&A. So they're asking him questions, and he's answering, and giving you insight into what it's like in Australia and working as an MT there. And when I listened to that, I knew right then and there, I want to work for an Australian company. I don't know what it was, but it felt right. I had a great feeling. This is it. So, and also I had spent 3 months in Australia a couple of years before on a house exchange with my family, and I fell in love with it. So I don't know, it felt right, and I knew that I wanted to one day work for an Australian company. So when it came time for my practicum, I signed up with NTS. So IMEDX at that time was not available. I think it is now available for you guys to do practicums with, but at that time it wasn't. So just NTS was the only Australian company available, and I signed up with them. And so what it actually looked like was it's 100 hours. We were only allowed to do 5 hours per day, maximum of 25 hours a week, so it takes about a month. I was assigned a trainer in my time zone, so there's a couple of gals that work, I think Libby and Bonnie are their names, that work in our time zone in Pacific Standard Time and Eastern Standard Time, I think one is. You get set up on Skype, so all of our communication is done on Skype. You're assigned files each day with some QA feedback, same day, which is great. And basically, you can work at your own pace. I mean, for me, at NTS, that's how it was. We could work at our own pace during the practicum, but we had to get in, those hours. And, I'm not going to lie, I found the practicum pretty challenging. there were a lot of account specifics I had to deal with. So I went from one set of account specs in school to several. And another thing that you deal with there is entering patient demographics, which is something that wasn't dealt with at school, so that was all new. And also addressees. So, you know, who is this letter to? Which doc is this letter for? And you have to enter in those details as well. And sometimes it's not in the database, so you have to look it up online. So there's lots of different things that are layered on top of what you already know in school, and it's challenging for sure, but it's fun. And then you're assessed. So you'll be assessed mid-month, and then at the end of the 100 hours, you'll get your final assessment on the practicum. And then you write your PI 3. Okay, moving along. Oh, I think, did we miss one? Nope, finding a job. Okay, I forgot to mention back when, under my story, the picture that was on there was a picture of me and my sister. It's kind of cute. I just put that in there if you want to pop back. Yeah, so that's me on the left, and that's my sister. And we're standing in front of one of my dad's ski shops that he built with his own two hands in the background there. So that's why that was in there, if you were wondering. Okay, sorry, finding a job. Okay, so the great thing about the practicum was that you're essentially in training, and if it all works out, then great, you're offered a job. And I was offered a job immediately upon finishing the practicum, and before I even wrote my PI 3 actually. And so as soon as I wrote it, I got the go-ahead, and a couple of days later I was working. But, you know, so I also kind of looked around for work, and, you know, I keep my eye on the market still to this day, and there's definitely plenty of work out there, you guys. So I wouldn't worry about that. You know, from my point of view, there seems like there's tons of work. Obviously, you want to keep in touch with the school, with Transcribe. They're a great resource for jobs that come up. And search company websites, you know, like you can go on the NTS website, you can go on the modal one. There's a lot of different companies out there, and you can certainly go on their website and have a look at maybe under employment or that type of thing, and see if they're offering anything. Another really helpful resource are your local health authorities. So, you know, you're like, in my part of the world, we've got Vancouver Coastal Health and Fraser Valley Health and these sorts of things, Interior Health. You can go on their websites and you can actually see jobs that are available. They post jobs that are available to the public on there as well. And I've got it cut off here a little bit by my photo of the grads, but Indeed.ca I found is very helpful. You can sign up for email alerts, you know, for MT-specific jobs that pop up in your inbox, and that's really great too. And then I've got down here that NTS is currently hiring. So you guys, if you're near grad or approaching your practicum, you can go onto their website, and under transcriptionists, they've got some information and an application form there as well. So I just checked that yesterday, and it looks like they're hiring, so that's all good. Okay, moving on. What it's like at NTS. So here I have a picture of Melbourne, Australia, and another pretty picture of Australia, just sort of nature in Australia. So NTS is located in Melbourne, Australia, which is down in Victoria, the state of Victoria. They are 19 hours ahead of us right now here in Pacific Standard Time. And we just do straight typing. So we have no editing, no speech rec files at all. So it's all straight typing. So you're typing from scratch. You can choose any hours that you like, a minimum of 20 hours per week. They do use the Inscribe platform, which you guys use at school, so that's really great. And they pay by the line. So they start out in training, you're getting 9 cents a line. When you move on to a team, you're getting 10.5 cents a line. And then when you have direct to client status, which is where your files are going directly to the client from you, they're not going through QA, unless you need them to, of course, that's an option. You're getting 11.5 cents a line. And it does go up from there. So if you're a whiz at typing and you can do thousands of lines a day, your rate will go up a little bit based on your productivity. So they have about 300 typists, they call us typists, that work there, and they're divided into teams of about 50. Each team is comprised of different specialties. So I am on team 3, and we have 4 different specialties on my team: cardiology, gastroenterology, hepatology, and medico-legal. So once you're on a team, you're then actually assigned to 2 specialties. So you're going to focus on 2 specialties only. Unless, of course, you ever run out of work, then they may pop in a few of the other ones in there. So my focus is on cardiology and gastroenterology. And I actually have had one medical legal file come into my pool once, and it was 30 minutes long. It was crazy, but that's the only medical legal file I've ever had. I get a few hepatology ones once in a while, but it's mainly cardiology and gastroenterology. So we also don't use the book of style, which is a big difference. They have their own website called the NTS Typist website, and it's the resource for all that kind of stuff that you would normally find in the book of style. And you know what? They have amazing customer support. Not customer support, let's just say support, team support. Basically, you'll have a team leader, and you also are in contact with your trainer. So you have your trainer during your training or during your practicum, but she or he is always available to you after that as well. So like anytime I'm working and I see that my trainer is online, she's on Skype, I can pop on there and ask her a question if it pertains to work that day, and they're super, super helpful. So that's really nice. And I have to say, the one challenge that I have found is that there are a tremendous amount of ESL docs. I know when you're at school, they often say like, oh, you won't get these really difficult docs out in the field. Well, we actually do. Like I find here anyway at NTS, there are so many in my pool, and it has been challenging for sure, but your ear will adjust and it gets a lot better for sure. Okay, moving on to the next slide. We have slow as molasses. I apologize that there's no capitals in here, you guys. When I did type up the slides, they were formatted very neatly and nicely, but I think in the transition from when I sent them over to Leslie, they just got a bit mumbled from different computers and different desktop applications or what have you. But anyways, so slow as molasses. Now I put this quote in here, and this is from Lori Monks, who you guys know from school, and this is a direct quote from her that she said during one of the webinars that I remember listening to, and it stuck with me. It really resonated. And she was talking about, you know what, when you first start out, like she was referring to herself, she said, I was slow as molasses. And it's so true. Don't get discouraged. In the beginning, when you first start out, you're slow. Like I think I was making about $5 an hour when I first started out, and it's a little discouraging. Yes, it is reassuring to hear. I know it's discouraging for sure, but don't worry. I have here, don't worry, you'll get better quickly, and it's so true. You'll increase your speed, your productivity, your confidence, all that stuff will come, and just persevere. It'll get better. So 6 months, I spent, I swear, the first 6 months just entering terms into my word expander. That's what it felt like. I was constantly adding words and terms, and 6 months later, I'm still doing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is taking so much time. But again, give yourself a full year. It takes a year to really get going, to learn all your specialties, learn your doctors, increase your speeds, and all that stuff. So I've got a picture of molasses here and the turtle. That's what it feels like, but it gets better. Okay, next slide. Thanks, Leslie. Okay, school versus work. So I've just highlighted a few differences here. Like I said, I was surprised by how many ESL docs we have. So ESL being English as a second language. There's, we've got ones from Greece, from China, from India, from all over. And so layered in with that, you have an Australian accent too. A lot of these docs have lived in Australia for years. So they have kind of a blend of accents. So it was really challenging for me in the beginning, but it got better. Patient demographics, like I touched on briefly before, that's something that was new to me that we didn't cover in school. Entering the addressee details, who is this letter for? And again, several account specifics. Like I think right now I'm working with about 10 different accounts. So, in one day. So quite a difference there. And then these ones here are pretty nice. Less hyphens and less commas. This is something that it might be an Australian thing, I'm not sure, or specific to NTS, but we use very few hyphens and very few commas. So the less, the better they like there. And we also don't do the dangerous abbreviations. So that's kind of a bit of a freedom there as well. But a big difference is, of course, the Australian English spelling. So we use the UK spelling for a lot of things, not Canadian or US spelling. Oh, can you guys still hear me? I see, is it just me? The sound cut out.
I can.
Are we all good,
fine.
Leslie?
Yeah, I can hear you
good.
fine.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So the spelling, yeah, I mean, the English spelling is a little different, and I have a few examples listed here. So orthopedics would be your Canadian spelling, and then orthopedics with an A popped in there after the P would be an example of the UK spelling, the UK Australian spelling. So we do use those. Minimize and minimize, yeah. So, and the Z is dropped, and they put an S in a lot of those words in Australia. And of course, mum and mum, M-U-M. So those are just a few examples, but there's several. But you'll pick those up pretty quickly. And I put them all in my word expander, so it just pops out in the right way. Great support at NTS, just like in school. Pretty awesome there. And then I just have, remember, you're essentially still at school. So, it takes, this is something that I learned along the way, is that, when you get out in the workforce, you're actually still learning, and you will be for many years. It takes a long time to sort of become good at your craft. And so just be easy on yourself and remember that you're still learning. Okay, next slide. Some common Aussie terms. So these are words that I come across daily. Lass is one they use a lot, which means girl or young woman. Mane, which is morning. Tarde, afternoon. Nocte, night. Liaise, to speak with somebody. Au fait, that was a new one that I hadn't heard before, but that's been dropped quite a few times, and it means to be fully informed about something. In the rooms, doctors will often say that, I will follow up with him in the rooms, meaning their consulting rooms. Full stop is something they say at the end of every sentence instead of period or stop. I can't remember what it's like in school, but, almost 100% of the doctors here will say that at the end of every sentence, full stop. And the patient feels well within himself. That was something that was a little different, but basically meaning the patient feels great. The patient feels well. The patient feels well today. They often say the patient feels well within himself. So a few differences there. Okay, I'm moving on to the next slide. And then, like I said, my hope for today was that you guys will be inspired and to pursue a career after graduation. I know sometimes people come out of school and maybe that's not the route they want to go, but I have here a few tips for success. This is what I've learned over my small little journey so far. And increase your typing speed, for sure. There's a lot of great resources online that can help you with that as well. And use text expander. That's definitely something I know that they touch on in school. It's super helpful and will help increase your speed as well. And for me, setting line count goals every day and every week has been really helpful. Number 2, minimize your distractions, for sure. Working from home is not only do you have your physical distractions like doing the laundry, social media, that kind of thing. Also mentally, I find I really have to clear my mind when I'm at home. So whether maybe you've had an argument with your spouse, or you have some issues with your children, or different things going on that you're thinking about. You can't get them out of your mind. Well, I find when I'm at home, it's even harder when I'm working at home to get those things out of my mind. Maybe when you're at work, in a different setting, it's easier to clear your mind because you have the environment around you. But at home, you're at home. So that's something that I've had to work on is mentally clearing my mind for work and minimizing those mental distractions. Move your body. This is a big one. I find because we're sitting at our desks for so long every day, it's just imperative to get up and stretch and move your body. And what I like to do is as soon as I wake up in the morning, I just do it like a 10-minute stretch right in bed, and it just gets me going for the day. And of course, go for a walk every day. You want to go for a walk or do whatever it is that you guys do. Whether it's your yoga class, or you go for a jog, or you go for a hike, or you go for a bike ride, or whatever it is. At the very least, go for a walk every day. It's really, really helpful, and that helps clear your mind as well. And then the last one I have is stay positive. I'm sorry, it's underneath these little photos I put on there, but it says stay positive, and that's huge. I get it. It's a challenging course. I was there. I know what it's like, but don't give up. You'll get there. And when you're out in the workforce, it's challenging. It's a tough job, but like I said, you'll get better, you'll get faster, and it's rewarding. I mean, I love my job. So don't give up. Persevere. I know you can do it. And then I've got why I love my job. And really, it's when it comes down to it, it's the flexibility to set my own hours, to be at home. I love being at home. I love cooking. I love baking. I love being there for my kids. And I'm a hockey mom and I'm a ski mom, and like I said, we're so busy. So that was huge for me, and this has worked out beautifully for that. And that's pretty much it, you guys. That's it in a nutshell. Feel free to email me with any questions as well. So I know if you have any questions, you can type them in here, but I'll also put my email in. So afterwards, if you ever want to get in touch with me, you can certainly do that. And maybe I can answer a few questions for you. Maybe if you're considering working for NTS or anything or an Australian company. So there's my email. And yeah, that's about it.
That was a great presentation, Tamer. Thank you. Yeah, so
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we have 25 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, for sure. Like Tamer said, she's happy to answer any questions.
I'm sorry about the nature of the slides here, Leslie.
Oh,
I don't know very well.
I'm not sure what
formatting, I guess.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. That's okay. It looked good on my side, but then I wondered, would it come out the same on your side? Who knows? Actually, you used a web-based platform. I didn't use a desktop application, so maybe there's less options there for saving it.
It could be. So Shauna is asking, did you say that you took an extension?
Yes, so I did. I took a couple. So in the end, it took me about 19 months to complete the course. Um, it was actually 20 months in total, I believe, but I did have to wait a full month to get into my practicum. They were busy and they just didn't have room for me, so I waited a full month. I believe I finished my course in June. Well, the curriculum part of it. I waited a month to get into my practicum. I did my practicum in August and wrote my Pi 3 on, I think it was September 4th of 2019. And yeah, so it was about 19 months all in all. And so I did have to buy a few extensions. Can't remember exactly how many. I think there were 3, maybe 2 or 3 anyway. But yeah, and it's a little extra money, but like I said, for me, it was worth it. When I looked at the timeline, it just wasn't feasible for me. So buying an extension or 2 was all good. Okay, what was the hardest part of the program? Well, I think there were a few chapters. I can't remember which ones now, but there was a really challenging one near, I want to say about a third of the way through. Maybe you can help me out, Leslie. There might be one there that people have problems with, but there were a few chapters I had a hard time with. I think really just getting through the material, doing all the reports. Like when you're at school, you're doing, if my memory serves correctly, about, let's say, 30 to 40 files per chapter when you get right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now when I'm working, I mean, I'm doing that many a day. So, during school, it was hard for me to get through all those reports, but, it gets better. Yeah. Okay. Skeletal. 30 and skeletal, yeah, that was challenging for sure.
I think muscular is a tough one too.
Yeah. Any tips for reviewing for PIs? Yeah, so for the PI exams, I made notes for sure. I would go through and make study notes. I would go over my notes, and then I would go back into my reports, and I would go through, I would really choose 5 or 6 of the most recent ones, and I would go over all of those. And, definitely re-listen to them and just get prepared that way. Yeah, I mean, the PIs, they're not that bad when you get there. They're actually not, I think they're not as scary as you think they're going to be, but being prepared and being organized gives you a lot of power. So just prepare for sure, and you'll do fine. Find your report grades really fluctuated. I think they were pretty steady. There were a few that I remember not doing so well on, but all in all, I think I really tried, and I took my time through the course, so I was able to keep my grades up. I took the time and really learned it and really trained my ear, and so for me, doing well was really important. So I think taking your time, if you have the time, is really helpful, and listening to those reports with the instructor feedback, listening to them again is really key. How does NTS deal with any blanks you may regard with regard to each stage you are in? Training, teaming. Okay, so yes, we can leave blanks, and there are times that you have to leave a blank. So when you're in the beginning, or any time really, if you leave a blank that you just can't, you've researched it and you just can't get it, you can send your file to QA. So in the beginning, automatically, all your files will be going to QA, and they'll double check your blanks, and they'll try and fill them in. And sometimes they can't get them either. But later on, of course, as you get a bit better and a little more confident and your ear is trained, you'll have less blanks. But there are times, especially with the ESL docs, that you're going to have a blank, and that's okay too. But, you know, you have the option of sending that into QA later on as well. So you can send it in, and if maybe they can get it if you can't get it. But like I said, sometimes they can't even get it. So you certainly can leave a blank. It's not forbidden, but of course you want to try not to leave too many blanks in your reports. And the QA process, well, we have two. We have QA1 and we have QA2. So QA1 is sort of the first lot that it goes through, and more in the beginning when you're still learning a lot. And then you have QA2, which is sort of the back end that will look at things. If you really can't get them and you have direct client status, then your stuff can go to QA2 at that point if you wanted to. It's an option. Okay, any tips for reviewing the longer dictations? I feel like using the 3-pass. Yeah, the long ones are tough. Those long ones. You know, you'll get better. You know, it's just a matter of mileage, listening, doing more and more reports, and reviewing them. I mean, it takes time. You have to go through it. It's one of those things you have to go back and review it and listen to it again. And I don't know if I have really any tips for that, except it just gets better, right? It gets better with time, and you get better with everything, and you'll find you're getting through your reports a lot quicker than you once were.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, while you're learning, we recommend using the 3-pass method because, you know, that first pass is important, and it helps train your ear as well to do that as well. So, you know, the first pass is just kind of familiarizing yourself with the content of the report and the dictator style. And then the second pass, you'll type out what you can hear and leave blanks for what you can't. Third pass, you know, listen to it again, looking for any, you know, grammar errors or anything like that. See if you can fill in the blanks. You know, while you're learning, we do highly recommend the 3-pass method. Once you're in the workforce, you know, and your ear gets better, you know, you may not necessarily need to do the 3-pass method for every report that you do. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great. No, I can hardly remember what the 3-pass method is now, so that's great. Yeah. I hope I haven't missed any here. Okay, some reports won't let me listen to them again. I'm not sure. Maybe
that's just an issue. Yeah, that's just an issue that we have with DictaScribe, and we're trying to find a resolution for that. It's just a couple here and there.
Medical legal. So as far as I know, this is just, so sometimes you have insurance, maybe an insurance claim involved in something that's, you know, an accident or somebody's health, and they need to be cleared for work. So sometimes a letter might be written up with regards to that. Maybe it is addressed to an insurance corporation or company, and it tends to be a little bit more factual and going over a history. And like I said, I've only ever had one in the workforce, and it was 30 minutes long. So it was pretty daunting, but I can't really speak too much to that, in that I don't really work in it. So is there anything that you could say, Leslie, about the medical legal file?
No, I've never really been exposed to the medical legal either. You know, I've done some for workman's compensation and stuff like that, but I'm not sure if that's exactly the same.
Right. Yeah, I think it's something along those lines for sure. How can you do 20+ reports in 68 hours? Maybe someone 3 times a day. Yeah, so most of the reports that I do are only, I would say they average about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes maybe per report. So, you know, as you get better and quicker and more confident and more efficient at what you do, and when you don't have to look everything up and do all that research, you know, it takes a lot less time. and you'd be surprised at how many reports you can get through in a day. And of course, you know, quality over quantity, always, always. But once you're out there and you start working and you're doing, you know, report after report after report, your productivity really does increase quite quickly. It's astonishing. Mm-hmm. Was there a point where you feel like quitting? Just curious. There were down times in school, for sure. I don't think I would ever quit because I just, you know, it's something I didn't want to do, but there were times when it was really hard, for sure. I mean, there were times when I felt like crying. I'm not going to lie. It's hard. It's hard. Just stick with it. It's worth it. Some reports take, and quitting from work, I'd have to say no. I mean, I was a little discouraged when I realized right off the bat I wasn't going to be making the money that I wanted to make. You know, I do this as a part-time job. You know, it's a secondary income to my husband. And so my expectations weren't really grandiose about how much money I can make, for sure. It's more about the lifestyle and being able to have a bit of work at home. But, you know, in the beginning I thought, yeah, I'd be making more money than this, but it increases, and every month, every 2 weeks, my paychecks increased, and they're still increasing because I just get better and better at my job. So, no, not quitting. Some reports take me forever and still my corrections light up. Purple. Yeah. Yeah. It just takes time. Stick with it. You'll get better. You will. It's learning. It's all learning and taking that feedback and learning from it.
That's right.
Yeah. I get really frustrated with reports. Hot potato like. What does hot potato like mean? Yeah, some reports are hard to understand. I can tell you that the ones that I do get, though, they're clear. I mean, they're all very clear. The audio is great. There's no problems there. You know, words aren't cut off or anything like that. The ESL dictators are tricky, like I said, but again, in fact, now a lot of them are my favorite doctors to get because I've gotten so many of them, and I've, you know, trained my ear to them, so I really enjoy them now. Commas will be the enemy. Yeah, the commas. Well, I can tell you that we hardly use them, and it's very freeing. It's really nice. Just going to go through read a couple questions here, you guys. Yeah. Well, I'm glad this is giving you guys faith. I'm so happy to hear that. Did I select the subjects that I wished to transcribe, or did NTS assign them to me? So during my practicum, my trainer, well, at the end of it, actually, she had a little conversation with me, and she asked me, you know, what specialties I liked, or if I liked any, and that kind of thing. And she kind of worked with me to find some that worked for me. Although, having said that, during my training, I was given mainly cardio and gastroenterology. I guess, I'm not sure why, but that's just maybe where they needed some help, and that's what I got. So they also saw that, you know, I did okay with that. I didn't have too many problems with it. So I guess they felt confident offering me those two. And it was great for me. I mean, I was happy with that. Cardiology was something that I actually wanted to get into. I just find it really interesting. And so that's what they gave me. And I've been with the same two specialties ever since I started. And now that I'm a year and a half in, I'm almost a little bit afraid to switch because, you know, I've learned so much in those two specialties. And so I'm a little bit afraid to switch to something else because it's like starting all over again, you know, learning those other specialties. But of course, I'll do that one day and switch things up. And who knows if I'll be with these guys forever. We'll see. But So they did assign me my team and my specialties, but of course, you know, a few weeks into it, they touch base with you and, you know, is it working for you? If not, they're happy to switch you around. That's not a problem at all. Your team leader is really helpful. She had a Skype call with me and we talked about, you know, the different doctors that I was having trouble with and the specialties, and they're really good about that kind of stuff. A hot potato in their mouth or a sock. Yeah, those are fun for sure. The worst is when they're eating while they're talking. Yeah. Yeah, I have a doctor, actually a female doc that I get quite often, and she dictates from home a lot. I guess it's in her home office, and she's got, I'm not sure if they're her children or they're her grandchildren, but they are, you know, milling about and talking, and there's a baby there, and sometimes it sounds like she's feeding the baby. I'm not sure, but there's all these baby cooing noises, and it's really hard to understand what she's saying on top of all this. So you get all sorts of different ones. And another thing is buses going by. I find when the doctors are dictating from their office, a lot of times you can hear traffic and buses, and I think they're inside. They're not on the bus, but you can certainly hear all those little things. And, you know, you get better. You get better with time at sort of not hearing those things, I guess. Okay, I am quickly going through, and I've had a few. I'm glad that this is encouraging and inspiring. Yeah, I can't really speak to editing. Somebody asked, I'm most interested in the editing. Is there enough work out there in editing? I'm not too sure, because I didn't go the Canadian-American route in, you know, in my practicum or working, so I'm not sure. I do know that from the sound of things, there's a lot of that going on for sure, and even in Australia with iMedX, which used to be called Aussie Scribe, I believe they do some editing and speech rec files there. That's an Australian accent. My son once said that they sound like they have a sock in their mouth. Yeah. Yeah, you get used to it. It's tricky though. Do I watch dramas or movies to better my medical vocabulary? No, I don't. I actually don't, but I do have my Siri on my phone is set to the Australian Siri. So whenever I can get some Australian influence into my life, I do get it. I try to get it. Do I get a regular rotation of doctors within my specialties? Yes, I do. So this has been lovely. Once I got going and got comfortable with some of my doctors, they were starting to give me the same ones all the time. And I do get a regular rotation, and it's great because, of course, you get better and better with them. And, I get new ones thrown in there once in a while for sure. I'm still building up my my rotation. I love to read a lot and listen to tons of audiobooks. Maybe I should find some audiobooks on medical. Yeah, that's a great idea. How rigorous was the interview process before you got an MT job? It wasn't daunting at all, because I had done my practicum with them. Basically, I think it was, there's a little quiz or a test that was done. Of course, before you even start your practicum, you need to become familiar with the different spellings and quite a few of the, the major differences. So there's a bit of reading and research you have to do, and like I said, a little test. But I think with the practicum, and which is essentially the same as the training process, I was interacting with my trainer on a daily basis, and I think that's really what the interview process was as well, because they got to know me through that. So as far as an actual interview goes, I didn't really have one. I think if you were to apply to them, having not done your practicum with them, you may have a little call, maybe a little Skype chat or something like that. But yeah, not too scary. Oh, I'm in a recruitment process. How rigorous was the recruitment process? Yeah, so just answering some questions, writing a test, going over some material. I am ESL myself, and I need to learn a lot. Yeah. May I assume that you were paid in Canadian funds and that it would be via direct deposit? Yeah, so I invoice them in Canadian funds, and then actually no, it's actually invoiced in in Australian dollars, and it is deposited as Canadian, so that the conversion is made at the bank for you. And it's very simple. There's no extra fees, and it's just I send in my invoice. A couple of days later, I get a direct deposit, and then of course there's a little sheet with that saying how much you got and that kind of thing. And then you can look it up daily on the banking websites as well, what the conversion rate is, and it's almost at par right now, so it's great. I can't imagine. Thank you. Does working for an international company make doing your taxes more complex? Well, not really. And my husband kind of takes care of that, so I actually can't answer too much about that, but we haven't had any issues yet. We haven't had any problems, so we'll see. I'm only going on my second year now, so we'll see what comes of that, but so far, no problems at all. Okay, I think that's it. I hope I didn't miss any questions in there.
I didn't see anything that you missed, so yeah, it looks great.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for taking some time out of your day today, you guys. It's been really fun.
Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your day, Tamer. We really appreciate hearing from you.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure and an honor, really.
Yeah. Yes, us too. Okay.
Good. You're welcome, you guys. I'm glad it was helpful. Take care, everybody.